Good morning. I am so glad you came back today. Well, I am privileged to be standing here once again. And I asked that they put a picture of my dad so you are able to see him. He's the guy in the middle. And the white guy on this side is my brother. We only share different mothers, but we have the same father. Jonathan, can you wave for us? That is the guy. So yesterday, I ended with a good story of the revival at the high school. And you know, when things begin to happen like that, you feel like you want to go on and go on and go on. But when I got home, at the end of the year, the school year in Uganda ends in December. So December, I go home, and I found when my dad had gotten with another woman, and this woman had two girls that were also in high school. And my dad chose to pay school fees for these girls. And he told me I cannot continue with my studies because he has chosen to pay school fees for those girls. And you know, at that point, it seemed like life has come to the end for me. All my dreams seemed like they are gone because I wanted to be an engineer. I wanted to be able to construct roads in Uganda. And when he said he cannot pay for my school fees anymore, I thought like life has come to an end. And to be honest with you, at that point, it was so hard to forgive my father. But I also realized that if I did not forgive him, it would hurt me the rest of my life. And so I chose to forgive my father. I chose to spend time with God in prayer. And a few months later, one pastor invited me to join his Bible school. And you know, Bible school in those days was for people that have failed in life. You just go there because anyway, what kind of job are you going to do after you graduate, you know? So I got this Bible school, and that's where I met my wife to be, Sarah. We became good friends. And while I was at the Bible school, I began to feel like God was calling me to plant a church in a predominantly Muslim community that was like 10 miles away from my village. And this village was called Bukeka. And just for your information, in Uganda, Muslims are only 10% of the population. But because of the history there have been a lot of fighting between the Christians and the Muslims. So Muslims now settle in communities. And it is those communities that are hard to penetrate with the gospel. And this community is one of those hard communities. I had seen pastors being beaten up in this village because they went to witness there. And God is calling me to go and plant a church in that community. I am like, no way, I am not going to go. So I decided, without even telling my girlfriend, Sarah, that I was running away. I decided I'm going to run and go and hide in the islands of Lake Victoria. And so before I went, I told my pastor, I am just going to visit a friend in the islands, and it's going to be 1 week, and I'm coming back. And he prayed for me. And as he was praying for me, I heard a voice tell me, if you go, you are going to die, because that is disobedience. And I thought, this is a demon speaking to me, but inside me, I knew it was God really speaking to me. And I decided not to heed the voice. I decided to go to the islands. And when I was entering into the boat, I went with my cousin. the same voice came back. If you enter into that boat, you are going to die, because that is disobedience. And I still entered into the boat. So an hour after we left the land, I heard the same voice talk to me. Because of you, all these people on the boat are going to die. And there were like 80 to 100 people on the boat. And I was the only Christian on that boat. And then as soon as I heard the voice, a big storm came. And I could tell that this side there was no storm, and there was no storm this side, but the storm was just facing where the boat was. And the people started throwing their items in the water. And you know the Jonah story. So I make a commitment inside my heart, and I say, God, if you only help me and this boat lands even in a forest, I will run, I will go home, and I will do anything that you want me to do. And the storm was getting worse and worse. And I realized now everyone on the boat is crying. The pilot shouted at us and he said, you people, there is nothing I can do now. So I remembered Jonah's story, and I decided I am going to rise up and I'm going to tell these people that if you throw me in the water, you are going to be well. I wasn't sure there was a big fish waiting for me. But I didn't want to see people die. And so when I stood up, I shouted, Jesus, have mercy on me. And the storm calmed instantly. I mean, like instantly. And everyone was like, wow. And I was just crying and crying and crying, because I knew that I was the problem, you know. And people were like, it's okay, the storm is gone, we are now safe. They didn't know why I was crying. And for the next 2 weeks that I spent in that island, I suffered each day. Each day was like hell for me. I remember this one evening, I got into a boat with a guy that I had just known a few days. We go fishing, and I realized there is no church on the island. Why can't I start a church on the island instead of going back into that Muslim community? I can have a church here. And so we are in the sea, 2 of us in the boat at 2 a.m., and I begin to preach to this guy. And all of a sudden, the guy turns against me and says, I am going to kill you now. Where was Jesus when my father was dying? Where was Jesus when I was losing my business? Do you know my name? I am a demon. I am going to kill you now. And you know, the guy started walking towards me. And I knew now I cannot call God to help me. It's like self-defense. And I told the guy, I said, he asked me, do you know how many people I've killed? You are going to be one of them. And I told him, but you don't know how many I've killed also. You are going to be one of them if you draw any closer to me. And we engage into this fight of words, and he can't move towards me. I am scared. We both know how to swim. And then all of a sudden I was pedaling the boat, and the boat landed on the ground. And I went and reported to the leaders of the island. And there was no police. So if you committed a crime on this island, people could gather around and decide what to do for you. So the next morning, people gather, and they are deciding what to do for this guy. And they say, because you wanted to kill him, we are going to kill you. And I started crying, please kill him, kill me instead of him. And all the people on the island told me, if that is what your Christianity teaches, then we will never accept to be Christians. So I knew, okay, God has not called me into this island. And so I had to leave the island. I came home, that was 2004 in January. In March of the same year, we got married with Sarah. And in August, we went to begin a church in this Muslim community. And I preached to Sarah for 8 months. No one else was coming. And it's like every day I had to run for my life. The Muslims wanted my wife because she was beautiful, and they knew the only way they can take her is by killing me. So I could run like every day just to save my life. These Muslims put a bounty of $2,000 on my head. And after 8 months, I was like, it is done. I cannot keep preaching to you, Sarah, alone. I am quitting now. Maybe God did not speak to us. Maybe we didn't hear him well. And so Sarah is like, why don't we start a school and love the kids here, and maybe we'll connect with the people. So it was a great idea. We started a school, and we named it Fountain of Hope. With 7 kids, with the conditions, don't preach to our kids about Jesus, and don't pray for them. And you know, because I had migraine headaches, after some time there was a girl in the 4th grade that had headaches like every day. And I have these orders, don't pray for them. One morning I decided I'm going to pray for this girl. Whatever will happen, will happen. So I laid my hands on the girl and I prayed. And the girl got healed instantly. And the girl went home and told her mother, and the mother got excited. The mother went on the whole village telling everyone, you know, he prayed for my daughter. My daughter is now fine. And the village was divided into 2. Some parents were coming to me, don't pray for our kids when they are just sick. Pray for them every day. We've seen that prayer works. And the other part of the community is like, didn't we tell you never to pray for our kids? We are going to kill you now. And you know, Islam in Uganda is so associated with witchcraft. So they started sending curses against me. They wanted me to die. Back then I was a skinny boy, and every time they spilled a curse against me, I gained weight. And in Uganda, gaining weight is good. You know? It means you are well fed, you know? So anyway, from that point, the church started growing, and the school started growing. By 2010, we had about 100 members in the church, and the school had grown up to 500 kids. And so we get an opportunity, a team from the West Coast comes to Uganda, and they see that we had a small boarding house that we were renting from a witch doctor. And they were concerned, and they said, we are going to provide money for you to build a boarding house for our kids. And they sent money, and I got contractors to build the boarding house. And when they dug the foundation, I was away. I received a call from the contractor. It's like, we cannot continue the work. And I'm like, why not? And he says, you know, because a witch doctor, the senior witch doctor, who was like the spiritual leader of the whole community, had come to the site and he said, you have to give me a goat before you can continue this work. If you don't give me a goat, whoever comes at site first is going to die. And so the contractor and his team, they walked away. They called me, you have to come and give this guy a goat. So I came, and all those friends I had made on the village are like, please, just give him a goat. It's okay, give him a goat. And for your information, in Uganda, if you are not a Christian, if you are going to build a house, it depends on how big the house is. If it is a big house, you give, if it is a sizable house, you give a goat. If it is a sturdy house, you can even go as far as child sacrifice. So this time the witch doctor is demanding for a goat, and when I come, they are telling me, you give him a goat, that's something small. And I'm like, no, I am not going to give him a goat, because Jesus offered a perfect sacrifice, and I'm not going to go back into offering animal sacrifice. And this witch doctor, after he left the school, he went on the whole village telling them, you know what, if he doesn't give me a goat, he's going to die. Get ready for his funeral tomorrow, because by tomorrow he will be dead. And I come and I say, no, I am not going to give him a goat. And I spent that night at the school praying the whole night. And the next morning, as I was leaving to go to school, at around 6 in the morning, I heard the people mourning on the village. And I'm like, what has happened? You know, in Uganda, if someone dies, people will cry and shout, and only to realize that this witch doctor woke up that morning because we don't have running water on the village. He woke up in the morning and he went to the latrine behind his house and he died there. And he was dead, and the fear covered the whole village. Everyone on the village knew why this guy was dead. And so the church members are coming to me, you know, for Muslim guys, the day you die is when your funeral is done. So church members are coming to me like, Pastor, you cannot go and attend that funeral. And I'm like, why not? And he says, because you are the reason that guy is dead. And I'm like, you know, I did not kill him, right? So anyway, I decided I am going to attend the funeral. So I go to the funeral, and during the service, I saw a group of Muslim leaders in the community walk towards me. And you know that time when you say your last prayer? I am like, God, forgive me. I don't know what's going to happen here, but it seems I'm coming to you now, you know. And then these guys tell me, hey, can we talk to you? Can we go aside and talk? And I can't say no, because I'm surrounded by Muslim guys. And I say, okay. So we go aside, and these guys begin to talk to me by saying, we realize we've not been nice to you ever since you came to our community 6 years ago. We've persecuted you in so many ways, and every time we've tried it, we've failed. We've come here to ask you today to forgive us. We will never persecute you again. Please, can you deal with those people that try to persecute you again? And please, don't let anyone else die. You know? And I started crying. I am like, no, it's not me. I did not kill anyone here. And I told them, I also did not want to come to your community. I actually tried to run away. And I realized that God is faster than me. And I tell you, if you keep fighting his work, he's going to keep fighting you. And you will not win. And they all knelt down. And they all cried. And we cried together. And I prayed for them. And from that day, the persecution in this community stopped. We got freedom to preach the gospel now openly. And at that point, even those Muslim guys that had stopped, that had refused to bring their kids to our school, they started bringing their kids to school. And right now, as I speak, we have like 1,400 kids. And over 90% of these kids are from Muslim families. And over the years, we've seen many of these kids come to Christ. And they are preaching Christ, and their families are becoming Christians. Now, when you come to this village of Bukeka, they just welcome me. I can go into any home. I can love on every person. And the church has grown up to 700 people as I speak now. And it is from this place that we decided as a church, we are going to be planting one church, at least one church a year. And for the last 7 years, we've been able to plant 2 churches every year. And, you know, some people tell me, thank you for obeying God's call. Well, I'll tell you, I have not been obedient. But God has dragged me all the way. Every time I try to go my own direction, He's always finding me and bringing me back to shape. And what I didn't tell you is that in this Muslim community, you know, Muslims are polygamous people. They have more than one wife. In fact, if you came to Bukeka, it is hard to find a man with one wife. They will have 3, 4, 5, up to 20. And because of that, many of these guys have died of HIV. And so there are a lot of orphans in this community. And as a pastor in the community, I started adopting kids. Within 5 years, I had adopted 18 kids. And my wife Sarah is like, okay, can we just end here, please? But it was circumstantial, like you don't have what to do with this kid. Some kids are rejected from their Muslim families. What do you do with them? You keep them in the boarding house, and then when the school is out, you take them to your home. And then you realize they have become your kids. So right now at our school, Fountain of Hope, we have like 320 orphans. And those are kids that don't have even school fees. And so we have a sponsorship program where you can sponsor a kid at $35 a month, and that kid will get quality education, will get food, and will be able to have some clothes. So we've been doing that, and I've been coming here to the States just to look for people to sponsor these kids, and then I go home. And that's when I started even a Bible school. And maybe I'll tell you more about the Bible school tomorrow. But like I told you yesterday, you can see that for me to come to Wheaton College in the grad school was such a big miracle for me. And I realized when I came here, I got a full scholarship from the Billy Graham. I wasn't paying anything, I'm telling you, from my pocket. And I realized maybe God did this to me because I'd helped so many orphans in Uganda. It was a time for Him to say, thank you for being faithful with these orphans. I am also going to give you a treat. I want to encourage you, as you continue with your studies, don't hesitate doing good to people that need your help. God is always watching your faithfulness. And God is going to use that small thing that you do for others for His glory. And at the end, you will see Him working in and through you. Thank you very much. I will add on my story tomorrow, and God bless you.